We'll get Ed Harris.
All right, welcome to the February meeting of the Finance, Efficiency, Economy, and Sustainability Subcommittee. We'll start the subcommittee today, like we always start these meetings, with the pledge. Councilman Waring, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank God.
All right, well, thank you very much. The minutes from the December 2015 meeting have been provided to all of us on the subcommittee. I would entertain a motion at this time for approval.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion to approve. Do I have a second? And a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 3 is the November 2015 Key Phoenix Economic Indicators Report. This was an information-only item. Any questions from my colleagues? Again, thank you for providing this material, Mr. Zerker. Very helpful, and encourage folks to go online and check out that information. Next is the Fees Subcommittee Agenda Action Item Summary. Item 4, this is also for information only. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Want to thank staff for putting this together. Again, this is another thing that I would encourage people to take a look at. This is a list of those items that have come before the subcommittee over the past few years, and gives people an update on what has happened with them. If they've been completed, they're still in process, and it's actually great to see all the work that folks have done in the subcommittee over the years. You know, we talk about the dollar amounts a lot, but there's other things too that aren't necessarily dollar savings, but they're process improvements that are helping to provide better services to the people of the city of Phoenix. So thanks for that. Next item 5 is the contract award for language, education, and diversity sensitivity services. This item is for consent. Councilman Waring.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of
Thank you.
course.
I appreciate
So
it.
we're going to pull that off consent then.
Yes.
Go ahead.
My question, thank you. I appreciate it. So is this a new program, or is this something we've been doing?
No, Councilman, this has been in effect for almost 15 years, I think, and so this is just reprocuring in our new system those services.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on item 5? Councilor Nowakowski.
Motion to approve item 5.
All right, motion approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 6, Capital Improvement Project Procurement Protest Policy. We do have a presentation on this one today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a process improvement that we're bringing to you as a result of continued work on our procurements. So we have City Engineer Kenny Knudsen from the Street Transportation Department and Assistant City Attorney Julie Krieg from Law, who've been working on this. We wanted to present it and give you a chance to go through it with any questions you have. And if the committee is so inclined, we would take an action. If there's need for more time, we have that. So there's not a big rush on this. It's just a further improvement of our process. So I'll turn over to Mr. Knudsen.
Thanks, Ed. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee. As Ed mentioned, we're talking about the CIP procurement policy and changes that proposed changes. We're looking at that. To start off, I don't usually like to recycle material from old presentations, but I'm trying to put it in the proper perspective. But a few months ago, I was before the subcommittee talking about how we successfully deliver our $3.5 billion CIP program. And I want to use this. I use this slide and the photos to talk about some of the successes we've had and how we've been able to deliver great projects for the city. But before the ribbon cuttings, before the grand openings, and those kind of events, we have to go through a lot of legal and administrative processes to be able to get to this point. And one of those policy issues, or one of those administrative issues, is our procurement protest policy. Now, I've spent my entire career in managing projects and in public works construction. But one of the first things I learned when I got into this field was that no matter how well your solicitation documents are put together, how well your procurement process is laid out, all it takes is one thing to throw a wrench in the whole thing, and it's a protest. And so, as a young engineer and a project manager, I saw a protest as a roadblock, something that was going to delay the project, something that was going to be possibly blowing up my schedule and trying to deliver a project, and potentially throw away months of work on a solicitation if we had to start back over from scratch. But and it also keeps us from being able to, in the city perspective, be able to get to city council and get a contract award and get the contracts executed to get moving on a CIP project. Well, after 2 decades in the industry, I'd like to be able to say I have a completely different philosophy or viewpoint about protests, but that would be probably wouldn't be entirely truthful. But I do have a much better appreciation for what protests are and what they do for us. And that really is to maintain the public trust and integrity and transparency about our processes. And a better summation is whether you're a successful proposer on a procurement or an unsuccessful proposer, or if you're a city employee, we all make mistakes. And we need to make sure when we're talking about multi-million-dollar contracts at stake that we have a process that can withstand public scrutiny, both the public side and the legal side. So let me talk a little bit about our policy today. The policy that we have today, it's in City Code Ordinance in Chapter 2, Article 12. And the last time we updated this was in 2007. And the reason why we updated it in 2007 was to broaden the scope of the policy to incorporate some of those no procurement methods that the state legislature adopted in 2001. So it allowed us to be able to accommodate construction manager risk, design build, job order contracting within our procurement policy. Before that, it only really applied to and accommodated low bid procurements. So why are we making changes today in 2016, or why are we proposing changes? Well, a couple of things I'd probably say is, Ed as city manager has challenged us as city staff to think creatively, to be efficient, and to always think about our customers. The assistant city manager with his core implementation efforts has really challenged us to look at the way our procedures are laid out, making sure we're making the right decisions and they're as efficient as possible. And even the work of this subcommittee and challenging us as a city to make sure we're being as efficient as possible. Or, from a city employee's perspective, really is the focus on continuous improvement. How do we sharpen our saw? How do we make sure our policies and procedures are relevant, effective, and useful today as they were when they first put in place? With that said, our policy changes that we're looking at are really, I would say, more minor in nature and reformatting wise, but we've added clearer definitions into our policy. And I would say, back up and say, in the packet that you have before you, we put 3 kind of versions of attachments into the report. One is the existing protest policy as it exists today in ordinance. The second, there's another one as well that shows the clean version of the proposed changes, and there's a third legislative version as well to help kind of see what the changes are between the existing and the new. So the clear definitions are really focused on who can file a protest and when they can file a protest. City Engineer Authority, it really clarifies this protest process is under the City Engineer Authority, delegated authority by the city manager. But I would say that this is a administrative process, not a legal process for handling the protest. And whatever recommendation the city engineer makes to the city manager, it's ultimately the city manager determination what comes before council for consideration and potential approval. Also, the protest process and how we deal with hearings. We wanted to clarify that protest hearings are optional. We do end up with a lot of protests that are very minor in nature, that don't really require having us to go through a hearing process. We also have ones that are more complex, that may involve multiple parties and multiple issues. So we want to be able to clarify that protest hearings are an optional piece of the protest process. And then reformatting, just to think from the external side perspective and looking at the process, to make sure that people who are looking at it see it from a chronological, orderly fashion, how our policy is laid out. So we made a lot of changes, really focused on that to make sure it flows very well. And if, as Ed mentioned, if this ultimately moves forward and goes to City Council and is adopted, we would incorporate this ordinance language into our city administrative regulations, so there'd be an on-the-ground kind of procedural document for city staff to follow. And we have, with these proposed changes, reached out to some of the industry groups we work with, the American Council on Engineering Companies, the Associated General Contractors, and the Arizona Builders Alliance. We haven't heard anything, any red flags come up from them yet, but we're going to continue on coordinating and working with them on this if they have any concerns through this process. So even if these policy changes are adopted, I did want to mention that, with these changes, some things will stay the same, and that's delivering great quality projects for our citizens. So whether we're talking about very important bridges in North Phoenix, or we're talking about much-needed community centers that we're having for our residents, or even key transportation links. We will maintain a focus on delivering successful capital projects through an open, transparent, and fair process. With that, I'll be more than happy to take any questions that you have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions and comments from my colleagues? All right. Well, this particular item is listed for possible action today. Mr. Zerker mentioned that we don't have to take action today, but if we, I mean, I would entertain a motion or discussion of any kind.
Take Jim's lead.
I was fighting the urge to have.
Councilman Waring.
I can't help myself. So we've had some issues with procurements, not just in this area, but just in general, we've had some issues with procurements. Do we look at like which department has the least issues, or is there some sort of, I'm not sure how exactly you'd measure that, because they seem to be sporadic, and some get to be controversial and some don't, and it's just hard to judge. So there doesn't seem to necessarily be a pattern exactly. Can you see kind of what I'm asking? How does this fit in? Is this going to be the best in the city? If this is the best, why don't we use it everywhere else?
Yeah.
But I know each department has different needs too, so it's hard to apply the same item to all the others.
I
Maybe
think
you
I
can talk about that a
understand
little
it.
bit.
Yeah. So there's really two procurement systems that we have in the city. The one that you get most often are the goods and services. And actually, I'll let Julie sort of explain the differences here. And this is talking about the construction. So they're separate. So the city engineer is going to get all the construction complaints. They're going to focus on them because they go through the city engineer. Finance
Maybe I
is
could
going
ask
to
it a
get goods
different
and
way.
services.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So when we look at it, is this going to be sort of a best practice? Are we confident in that? Because then we should take action today if we think that. If there's more research or work that could be done, I don't think we want to keep changing it.
Right.
We probably I assume you probably agree we want to do this in one fell swoop or not at all. So is there a response to that?
Well, council member, if I can clarify, this practice applies to the Title 34
Right.
procurements for streets. Separately, for the rest of the procurements with the city, we are also looking at that to address issues that you bring up. And we have revised our procurement policy under an administrative regulation for those procurements as well. So this specifically speaks to the Title 34 and is best practices because Title 34 has some different constraints under that, under the statutes than does our regular procurements. And this is to clarify our process for protests and all that we receive under the Title 34.
So this should be more clear, more transparent.
Correct.
Just to repeat it.
And
There's no way it's making it worse for people who are trying to do business with us.
no, we are
Okay.
clarifying the process in the
Sometimes
code.
unintended consequences, I think we've all found up here.
Correct. And to go along with it, then we are revising the administrative regulation for those processes. So this is just to clarify the code language and make the process more clear in the code so that it's more transparent for the public.
And I think as Mr. Knudsen said, we want to be continuously assessing these processes. So we don't want to revise the ordinance every meeting
Right, yeah.
clearly, but as things come up, where we see where there was a gap or someone didn't understand it, and this really came out of that, someone didn't understand the protest policy, we went back and looked at it and said, we could be clearer with this. And that's what Kenny and Julie have done with
Fair enough.
this.
I do agree. You don't want to make too many changes in
No.
this, and it also makes it
That
seem like you're
becomes
changing, based on every problem that you have, and I think that would frustrate businesses more than anything. So a good, clear policy is fine. I am a little surprised. Are you guys a little surprised nobody's here from the business community to talk about this? I would have thought this would be the kind of thing that people would have wanted to have input. I mean, when I read this in the packet,
talked
I sort of
to-
thought people would be here, and then they might have suggestions or say, oh, this is better. I'm just surprised that there's not that.
Yeah, I agree. As a follow-up on that, we definitely made sure, because I don't want to hear
Yeah, there are
in a week.
stakeholders
I don't want to
here,
hear in
right.
a week that, oh, well,
Yep.
they didn't reach out to us if we take action today. I mean, obviously, this is going to go forward to the full council anyway.
And Mr.
But-
Chair, that's the only reason I wouldn't make a motion
Yeah.
today. You guys reached out to stakeholders, because there are people who have skin in this game and want to have clarity and so forth. And I'm just surprised they're not here either speaking for this or against it.
Mr. Chair, Councilman Waring, Definitely. We wanted to make sure our business partners were well aware of this. But as kind of my presentation laid out, we do have some, meat to some of these changes, talking about the protest hearings being optional and laying out some clearer definitions. But really, it is about the flow and readability of this and making sure it is clear from an outsider perspective. And that's one of the things we try to do, is jump outside of our city skin for a little bit to read it from the industry's point of view. If I'm looking at this, this is the first time I've submitted on a procurement. Does this tell me everything I need to know from an outsider perspective to be able to know what my rights are, what my abilities are, to be able to, if I have an issue with this procurement, whether it's before the solicitation is due or after the solicitation has been due and there's a procurement decision being made. And I think even though I haven't heard anything, I haven't heard anything negative, and I don't think from their perspective this is a major issue for them. The majority of our protests we get right now, at least on my side, are dealing with when somebody is determined to be non-responsive to a procurement. It's one of those more simple issues. There's less of those complex ones where you have a bidder protesting a lower bidder or another procurement. That we see less of those than we do the ones where it's one person just upset that they were disqualified from a procurement or they were not successful in the procurement.
Now, it sounded, may I continue? Or,
Yes.
Thank you. So as Ed suggested, it sounded like maybe there was a specific instance. You guys went back and revisited the policy because of one, or it sounded like one complaint the way you said it. Maybe it's more, but I'm surprised, those folks aren't here because it sounds like we're making a change because they were confused. It sounds like you, being the city manager, and you guys looked at it and agreed that a reasonable person could have been confused. That's how I interpreted your comments. Correct me if I'm wrong. Clearing that up is a very meritorious goal. I'm just a little surprised that either the person or business whose complaint brought this about isn't here to sort of say, yeah, that would be better, that would have helped me out, or that other businesses aren't here to say that. I guess I never really heard what kind of outreach was done. Did I miss it, or? I mean,
Yeah,
did you?
can you, and then,
Well, what did you do to
Yeah.
let people know that this was going on today, or that you were doing this process over the last few weeks?
The three groups that I mentioned before was the American Council on Engineering Companies. It's a group we work with a lot with the city of Phoenix. They represent the majority of engineering companies that are operating here locally in Arizona. The Associate General Contractors, they represent a lot of the horizontal construction contractors that deal with our roadway and our water work throughout the city, and also the Arizona Builders Alliance. They handle a lot of our vertical construction, our building construction trades within that. So they're representative groups. They're not specific contractors. They're representing for the overall industry.
Yeah, and I guess I would have thought, Mr. Chair, sorry, I would have thought maybe reaching out to the specific businesses. Maybe we could hold off on, well, let's see what
Yeah.
Councilman Nowakowski says, and then.
just one other thing before we go to Councilman Nowakowski. I wondered, did we reach out to some of the procurement attorneys who, we tend to deal with, the Greg, I'm trying to forget, the guy at Lewis and Roca, Greg Harris, I think. Some of those folks as well, have we reached out, kind of in the legal community?
We have not, but we can certainly do that.
Okay, yeah, that might make some sense. Councilman Nowakowski.
I hear a lot of complaints after the protest period where it's actually a couple years down the line where somebody wins a bid and then they come back to the council asking for millions of dollars because we need to finish this project, the material costs, et cetera, has gone up. And individuals are saying this is not fair. We projected that this was going to be the true cost. These other individuals came in, they underbid us, they won the contract, and now they're coming back to the city of Phoenix asking for millions of dollars to finish the project. We're in a project 3 years, we got to finish the road, and guess what? We have to give in as a city. So my concern is that, is there anyone at the city level to say these are realistic numbers? That what they're saying that this road, for example, Broadway Road, we're $13 million short in completing it. So somebody made a bid. Somebody should have looked over and said, you know what, these are realistic numbers. Or somebody should have said, you know what, this is not realistic. You're going to be $13 or $10 million short. And then that protest period has passed because we're already 2 years into the project. And the other contractors are saying, we knew that it was short. We knew that they underbid the bid and that they were going to come back to the city because that's the norm here. Is you can't finish a project, you just come back and ask for more money. So how do we prevent that? And I know that's kind of mixing apples and oranges, but I think that that's something that happens beyond the protest period. And then, and we're getting a reputation out there for doing that.
Chairman Gates, Councilman Nowakowski, that's a great point. One thing that, as we talked about in the subcommittee here a few months ago, is that the different methods that we have to be able to procure contracts and contracting services are varied. Sometimes we're using qualifications only. Sometimes we're using a combination of qualifications and price. Sometimes we're using price only. So when you're dealing with specific different types of procurement, sometimes we are just making sure we're just selecting them on qualifications and the prices to be negotiated later. Obviously, we're still concerned to make sure we get a fair and reasonable price in those cases, but at the point in time, we're using the information we have through those procurements to make a determination on which firm is selected. So if price is a component in those solicitations, we will make sure that those commitments they've made when they've submitted to the city are kept. Same way on the qualification side, if they propose a project team or a manner in which they're going to approach the project, we want to hold them to that. So some cases, like I said, sometimes when we're negotiating a price after we've made a selection, it really doesn't adhere to the protest policy that we're talking about here. It's just making sure we're managing the project effectively, and we're with the constraints that we have, both from a financial perspective and the schedule perspective.
Just a follow-up question. Is there someone from the city that actually looks at these bids and say, you know, these are realistic, or an expert that we go to say, you know, this bid is realistic, they could actually build this road, or they can build this terminal and they're not coming back in 3 years down the line, where you can't pull that contractor out because they're already 3/4 into the project, and then we kind of got our hands tied and we have to allocate those extra millions of dollars that another person actually put in their bid during the process, and it would have been legit and they should have won the bid.
Mr. Chair, Councilman Nowakowski, great point. Yes, of course, we don't use just one tool. We use, depending on the procurement method, we may use outside consultants to help us do cost estimating. We may use competitive results to come out of a procurement to make sure we've got a fair and reasonable price. We also will, if we're doing negotiations, we'll be using outside parties to be able to help us to make sure we have fair and reasonable prices. We have databases that in some cases we're using to make sure we're looking at historical costs. But in all cases, there's some times on projects where we have unforeseen site conditions that may happen, whether that's utilities that are underground that require relocation that can cause issues, all kinds of different things that could happen with there. But obviously, we do make sure that we have different tools in our toolbox to be able to make sure we have fair and reasonable prices at the end of the day.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just from hearing it, we deliberately gave ourselves some time here. I think we'll let this marinate until the next meeting. We'll specifically go back and talk to some procurement attorneys, and also ensure we formally have some feedback from the professional groups that Kenny described. There's not, as I said, there's not a big rush here, and so we can take some more time to do this and bring it back in March.
Okay, I think that makes sense unless any of my colleagues disagree with that approach.
No, I agree 100%. I'd like to add on there, anyone who filed a protest with us, that they be a part of this conversation. So I'd like to hear from those individuals that have protested in the past. What are the best practices for the city of Phoenix to improve in those concerns that they might have?
Anything further from my colleagues?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So just, you know, there are kind of two different procurements, as you talked about earlier. Is it productive to have the people who protested in the other group of procurements? I'm sure there's a technical term for it, but the other group, are they similar enough that that's helpful, or is it not? Because that direction didn't boil, no offense, Councilman Nowakowski,
Right.
it didn't boil it down to that specific,
Right.
your specific area that we're talking about today.
Right, they really are distinct
Okay.
groups, because the type of contractors that are going to be bidding on the Title 34, you know, CIP projects are usually a completely different group than those that would bid on regular, you know, other citywide projects.
And for the city manager, so the other group, not the stuff that's going on under their purview, is really where we get most of the protests. Is that a fair, or is it just a mixed bag?
It's a mixed bag. The other group would be goods and services, and that's mostly the finance, the stuff we buy. I don't have a good feel for how they split out. We have more of those procurements, We have
Right, I
far
mean,
more
it's a
goods
much
and
bigger
services
pool of-
procurement,
yeah,
so you have a
so-
bigger pool, so there's probably more protests there. But these are bigger dollar procurements where there's often more at stake, and so they kind of interact.
What I
that way.
always remember about the protests is the bitterness and the ill will, not so much which category they fall into. So for us, it's just always kind of unpleasant. And something, I mean, the whole point of this is to preemptively solve some of those problems so we have less of them. I hope this can do that. I hope what was done in 2007 reduced them from what was going on before. But you might want to focus specifically on ones you've had in this area. If people don't want to come, I mean, you can't make them come. I just assumed when I looked at this that there was going to be some give and take with the business community and our business partners, and I'm surprised that there's not. So I think that's what we're looking for. If they don't want to provide feedback, then that's the way it goes. So I know you can't make them.
We'll see if we can even get letters of support from those if
Yeah,
they feel
that'd be
comfortable, so you have that, at least have that evidence, okay?
One question I have before we move on to the next item. You have a section 2-190.4 solicitation transparency policy. It looks like that's a completely new section. Can you, can you speak to that?
That is exactly the same provision that is already in Chapter 43 under our regular procurement code. I just copied that over and put it under this to apply to the Title 34 procurements.
Okay, so we
Just to
didn't,
be, again, more clear. So this is the exact same language that you approved last July, I think. You approved some language on the solicitation transparency
right,
and update.
but it didn't exist in this area. So someone might have been confused and thought that the transparency policy didn't apply to these types of procurements.
Correct.
And Chair Gates, one thing I'll point about that as well is that transparency policy is in all of our procurements.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been codified in city code.
That's
So
good.
this is an opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah, good addition. Wonderful. Anything else from my colleagues? Okay, great. Well, thanks for your work on this. We'll look forward to further outreach and then this coming back at the March meeting. Thank you. Takes us on to item 7, which is the Employee Wellness Program update. All right, we have props.
Assistant HR Director Mary Kyle, who works in our wellness area, also known as Fit for Phoenix.
Okay. You got it.
Was it under $50?
Thank you.
Mary.
So several months ago, you requested, when we were talking about retiree healthcare and employee healthcare, to come back and talk to this group about wellness initiatives that the city's done for our employees. So that's what today's presentation is about, is our Fit for Phoenix Employee Wellness Program, which is our employee-facing program. So you might be wondering, why do we have a wellness program for employees? So 80% of large employers have some form of a wellness initiative that they do with their employees, but there are several reasons that we do this. It's really to help educate, motivate, and help get our employees engaged in their own health. So it's to encourage a healthier lifestyle among employees, and then to provide employees with tools and resources to either maintain good health or to get to good health. And some of the benefits of an employee wellness program are, when you're reducing health risk factors in employees, typically what happens then is you're going to see a reduction in health insurance claims. So as employees are sicker or have more disease states, health insurance tends to be more costly. So as you implement wellness programs and you're either keeping employees healthy or you're moving them to lower risk factors, typically you'll have a trend in healthcare that follows that. And then healthier employees often lead to reduced absenteeism and greater productivity in the workplace. So we do confidential health risk assessments here at the city for our employees, and there are 7 components of health that we're looking for in those health risk assessments. But basically what happens is we get an aggregated report back from our carriers, so from Cigna and Blue Cross. We never know anything about an employee individually, but we get information back on our population that took those health risk assessments. We do have a high completion rate. We're typically around 80% completion for folks that are enrolled in our healthcare plans to complete those confidential health risk assessments. And likely part of the reason that we're so high in this is really based on 2 different factors. One, we make it very easy for our employees to get those biometric data that they need to complete the health risk assessment, and then taking our open enrollment out to the field. So when we do open enrollment, that's kind of when we run our health risk assessment campaign. We take a mobile computer lab out with us, we take nurses out with us, and we run those biometric clinics as part of our open enrollment campaign. And so based on, doing our health risk assessment since 2012 and that aggregate data that we get back, we know that our highest risks for employees are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, weight, and diabetes. And those have been very consistent over the period of time that we've been doing health risk assessments. They might move around in those top 4, but those have consistently been our top 4 health risks for employees. And so then we design our wellness programs based on those health risks. So some of the things that we do in our wellness campaign are on-site health coaching. So we have health coaches that come from the Wellness Council of Arizona. They go out into our work locations. We began this with a pilot program back in 2012 where we had 3 locations that employees could meet with a health coach. But we've expanded it since then, and it's grown to 25 different locations in 2016. So folks can meet with a health coach one-on-one. You can talk about, diet and nutrition, exercise, disease states, all kinds of things, and they point you to things that you can do to mitigate those risks in your health. They can give you personalized guidance on nutrition, disease management, activity levels, stress management, all kinds of different things. And then those health coaches also help us promote other Fit for Phoenix programs and city benefits. So part of the results of our on-site health coaching is we have over 1,200 employees who've met with a health coach on at least 2 or more occasions. 76% of them rate overall health improved. So if they had some kind of a risk factor and they were working towards, mitigating that, they're saying that their health has been improved. 75 of those meeting with a health coach have said that they've improved their eating and that they're eating more healthy now. And 71% of them report being more active, and some of them have lost weight as a result of meeting with a health coach. So we also have the Walk for You pedometer program, which has been one of our more popular programs in our wellness campaign. And I did include one of our Fit Kick pedometers in the bag that I gave you. So this program is really engaged towards getting our employees to be more active, and this is a way for it to count their activity steps. So we began this program back in 2013, and we started in 4 city work locations: HR, City Hall, Municipal Court, and the police building. It's now expanded to more than 50 work locations, and we provide incentives for folks that are participating in this program. You get incentives at 250,000 steps, $1 million, and then again at 5 million steps. So typically what we use as our incentive in this program is Sprouts gift cards. We've used Trader Joe's and Sports Authority as well to really get employees engaged in being more active. To date, city employees have recorded more than 3 billion steps using those Fit Kick pedometers, and we've had more than 5,000 employees who have participated since 2013. So in this building, we have remote access points that download the steps off of your pedometer. There's one by the the Starbucks kiosk and one at the front of this building. So as that pedometer tracks your steps, when you walk by those remote access points, it downloads all the data off of your pedometer, and then you can access that via your own secure web portal. These are very accurate pedometers that we use, so they track that heel-to-toe movement on the ground, so just shaking those pedometers doesn't add steps to that. So some of the things that we do around nutrition, we have the Fresh Express bus in the downtown location twice a month. They're between City Hall and the Quest building. So that's a way for employees to get low-cost produce, fresh produce, in a very economical manner. It brings it right to the workplace. We've partnered with the county on that program as well. In the past, we've done Arizona Healthy Harvest, which is a way for employees, again, to get fresh produce. This one comes from a local grower. It's all organic produce that comes in that Arizona Healthy Harvest. We've also done cooking demonstrations for our employees, like on a lunchtime brown bag. We have a Sprouts partnership that we partner with them on a couple different things, including our incentive program. We have a Weight Watchers reimbursement program where if you participate in Weight Watchers and you lose pounds over the course of that session, then you get a reimbursement for Weight Watchers. And then we have catalog classes as well. And included in that packet of things that I gave you is a listing of all of our different catalog classes that we provide for employees so that they can sign up for all kinds of different things. So I've included a copy of that in some of your materials as well. We recently did webinars for our employees. That was very successful for us. So one of the things that's a little bit tricky about running a wellness program for 14,000 employees is that when they're spread out over 500 square miles, it's hard to reach all of our employees. So doing that webinar series has really been an effective way for us to reach a lot of employees in remote locations. As we talked about fitness and activity, we have a YMCA discount for memberships at the YMCA as well as the Croc Center. We offer Fitness Fridays, and Fitness Fridays are a variety of fitness classes that we offer, such as kickboxing, boot camp, Zumba, those kinds of things that employees can do over a lunch hour. We also partner with the Fit Phoenix program for the Meet Me Downtown walks that happen on Monday evenings. We do an annual county versus city walk, usually in May, where we walk from here over to the ballpark and back, and then the Walk for You pedometer program that I just talked about. Other things that we do for on-site preventative care are a blood pressure campaign where employees that participated in blood pressure screenings and an educational campaign got a free blood pressure monitor after they completed that series of classes. We've done skin cancer screenings, mobile on-site mammography, and the prostate on-site project. Those always happen for us in February and March, so those will be happening in the next couple weeks. And then on-site flu vaccines. We've recently partnered with Public Works for a pilot program for solid waste equipment operators. So one of the things about our solid waste equipment operators is when they sit in a truck all day long, trying to get them engaged in being active, eating healthy, making sure that they're well hydrated. So we started this program in July of last year, and it will conclude in July of this year. But this has been a pilot program working with a group of employees on a voluntary basis out of the Union Hills Service Center. It has been very well received by those employees. So we've done some health fairs, some on-site classes for them. We have health coaches that go out there, and they're doing a weight loss competition. Our wellness program has been recognized not only here in the Valley, but nationally. So we've been recognized by the Phoenix Business Journal as being one of the healthiest employers in the Valley for 2013, 14, and 15. We've applied for that again for the 2016 calendar year. We won a Cigna Wellbeing Award in 2015, so that was a national recognition. And then we recently won a WellCOA Award in Arizona for our pedometer program. Questions that I can answer for you?
Questions from my colleagues?
Just a comment.
Vice Mayor,
Yeah.
our leader on Fit Phoenix efforts of the city of Phoenix, Vice Mayor Valenzuela.
I think this is a great program when you talk about, speaking of Fit Phoenix for just a moment, the idea is to help create the healthiest city that we can be. When you look internally with the city of Phoenix, we have a network of about 60,000, right? When you consider nearly 15,000 employees and family, network of about 60,000, that's a great place to start. And to show all of the different programs that the city has for its employees, it's remarkable. Congratulations, there's a lot more work to be done, but you make it very fun for everyone. I'm gonna take a look at this bag, but you're describing what's in the bag, and it's enough to just make anyone want to be part of this program, especially the Fitbit part of it. So thank you for the connection with Fresh Express as well. We see it. We're all big fans of it. My entire office, we know exactly when it's going to come around, and it's a great opportunity to go and get fresh produce. But the purpose behind that Fresh Express, again, it comes around monthly for city employees and everyone who's in the downtown area. But you know, that's an opportunity to get fresh produce throughout the entire city of Phoenix. But again, it's part of that whole Fit for Phoenix program to try to make this one of the healthiest cities in the country, and certainly the healthiest city that we can possibly be today. So thank you for all of your work, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Vice Mayor. Other comments from my
Just a quick
colleagues?
comment.
Councilor Noakowski.
Now, I just really want to thank you for thinking outside the box and using the enrollment as a way to really measure the healthness of our employees. You know, 80% of the individuals working for the city of Phoenix participating in that health risk assessment. That's really good, especially with 14,000 employees and being spread out through 500 square miles, right? The other thing is just having those health coaches. Sometimes individuals just need that coach behind them to encourage them, to help them through a special program, and having 1,200 individuals involved in health coaching and the walking programs, the fitness and activities, the membership discounts to the YMCAs and all that. I mean, it's just incredible how this program has just taken off and encouraging our employees to go out there and walk and get healthy. And exactly what the Vice Mayor was talking about, it's not just our employees, but their family members also. So, and then you can tell by all the awards that we've received within the past years. So thank you for your hard work and keep it up. And I love that program, that pilot program that you did with solid waste, and how you customize programs depending on the different departments' needs. So thank you for doing that.
Councilman Noakowski, I really would like to take a second to introduce Kathy Bird, if she'd stand up. Kathy acts as our wellness coordinator, and she's really been the mastermind working with Public Works on that pilot program and lots of our other wellness activities. So I'd just like to take a minute to recognize Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Super. All right. Any other comments? Mary, I would just echo the comments that have been made. This is a great program. Number one, it's about the health of our employees and improving their quality of life. But secondly, you know, like most everything we do here, there's a huge cost savings piece of this. If people are in better health, we're going to have lower utilization rates. And secondly, if we can, you know, have the opportunity to work with the health coaches and maybe identify issues early on. Again, one, it's about the health for those people. But secondly, it helps bring our costs down. So, and this is such a focus of our city manager and of you, is bringing those healthcare costs down. So thank you for the big part that you're playing in this. And thanks for the presentation. Before we go to our next item, item 8, we always like to recognize our members of the Innovation and Efficiency Task Force and thank them for their efforts. And I think I saw Mr. Ray back over there in the corner. Thank you for being here, and thanks for everything that you've done over the years here to support the efforts. With that, we'll go to item 8, update on Brownfields and Healthfields project grant.
So similarly to internal efforts for health, this is an external effort for health that the Office of Environmental Programs is working on. So Mr. Jadis.
Chairman Gates, subcommittee members, good morning. We're going to continue the health theme with this presentation. We're going to talk about give you an early look into our 3-year grant with EPA for $400,000 that was authorized by council back in December of 2014 for us to pursue, and we were fortunate enough to be awarded that grant. I want to just quickly introduce Roseanne Albright, who will be doing the bulk of the presentation. She's our Brownfields expert in the city of Phoenix, and I want to say we're very fortunate. Roseanne is nationally recognized. EPA will constantly direct people to call Roseanne for guidance and support, and so I think thanks to Roseanne's great work, we're able to be much more successful in our Brownfields programs. I also wanted to just take a moment and recognize CJ Hager, who's here. One of our project partners from the St. Luke's Health Initiative, so I just wanted to take a moment to recognize that. And then also wanted to introduce Anna from Community and Economic Development. As we get further into this project, she will be helping us with the economic development aspects. So we're excited about that. So the purpose of this project is to take a couple of different needs that we have. So we have brownfields properties throughout the city that we'd like to see redeveloped and turned back to great use. And we have healthcare needs, both from a healthy food aspect, as we talked about, but also just healthcare access for our citizens. And so the purpose of this grant is to try to look at opportunities to combine those and redevelop some brownfields into those healthcare assets. And I'm going to turn it over to Roseanne to go through the project.
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, council members, and thank you, Joe, for those kind comments. It's nice to start your morning with compliments. I'm excited to share this project with you today because it really does build upon our previous experience with brownfields redevelopment. We know that cleaning up brownfields and redeveloping creates economic benefits, community benefits, and certainly the environmental benefits. So now adding to that the impact of increasing access to healthy food and healthcare certainly are going to bring those benefits and help improve the overall health of our residents. So we do know that there are some issues to overcome, such as food deserts. So I wanted to show you that here in Phoenix, nearly half the population live in a food desert, which is simply an area, a low-income area where residents live more than a mile from a healthy food outlet. So as you can see on this map here, food deserts are outlined and shaded in blue and are really located throughout the city with a congregated effort in the west and the south areas of the city. Other measures such as low supermarket access and food insecurity rates also indicate lack of access to healthy food. The child food insecurity rate for Maricopa County is significantly higher than the national average. Low supermarket access areas are noted here on the map and are outlined in purple and are also located throughout the city. Lack of access to healthy food can also be a contributing factor in one's overall health status. Here in Maricopa County, our rates of heart disease, diabetes, and obesity are higher than the national average as well. And Maricopa County has recognized these challenges and have included these priorities in their 5-year health improvement plan, which also includes improving access to health care. Now, with regards to brownfields, in a preliminary inventory being conducted for this project, which started with a review of publicly available state and federal environmental records, we found that there are more than 11,000 potential brownfield sites citywide. This is the first step in identifying potential brownfields. So the next step, actually being conducted as we speak, is to field verify those sites in our project target areas. And we actually have a group of ASU School of Sustainability interns doing that work out in the field, ground truthing these sites, and using the latest technology to help report the results and ultimately help us refine those results and identify potential brownfields in our target areas. Our project also directly aligns with our general plan and our draft 2050 sustainability goals. In the general plan, it calls for an increase in the number of residents who live within a quarter mile of a healthy food outlet. In addition, our 2050 goals call for eliminating food deserts and improving public health. So we match there as well. Quick start actions in that 2050 goals include increasing the number of community gardens, farmers markets, and adopting changes to help improve the local food system. So this map done very recently, which we hadn't had before, shows the farmers markets in the square orange. There are 12 in Phoenix, and the community gardens, there are about 28 in Phoenix. There could be more, but we don't have a direct outlet where people register their community gardens, which might be something that comes in the future. Linking brownfields with the need for food and health, as Joe mentioned earlier, really does make a lot of sense. We can build upon our existing success, which to date has resulted in over $300 million in private investment, 285 acres of land have been restored, and more than 3,000 jobs have been created. Phoenix is actually the largest city to undertake this effort at such a large scale. So we have EPA and quite a few folks watching us, so we can be a leader once again in this area. There are examples in other cities where health fields have worked. And just to give you a couple of examples, in Clearwater, Florida, an abandoned gas station was cleaned up and redeveloped as a healthcare center, and now it serves over 3,000 residents in that local community. In Philadelphia, a large industrial site was also cleaned up, and now it's an urban farm, a farmer's market, a community kitchen, and really a great resource for that community. For our project, we have enlisted a number of partners that are going to help us all along the way. St. Luke's Health Initiatives, Maricopa County Department of Public Health, University of Arizona, Valley of the Sun United Way, and many more. So our $400,000 in grant funds that we've received from EPA are going to be focused initially in 11 target areas that are designated neighborhood initiative, redevelopment, and brownfields planning areas. These areas were selected as a way to kind of manage our large geographic area and population, and also to complement the existing revitalization work that's being done in these particular areas. We expect that as the project progresses, we may identify other areas or properties that are good candidates for health fields, and we have flexibility built into the grant to adjust as needed. So on the map, here are the target areas that we're looking at to start with, and then I wanted to overlay on top of that the food desert areas and the low supermarket areas. On top of this, we're working with the county to overlay medically underserved areas at the census tract level as well, and then on top of that will be brownfields. So all of that information together will give us a really good picture of the current status of food, health, and brownfields, and also identify some opportunities.
It kind of looks like a Picasso.
And it's kind of pretty too, right? So
It looks a little bit.
the project activities that we're going to be doing under this project, we're initially starting with an inventory, as I mentioned, and it's focusing on identifying health fields in our target areas. The end product of that inventory will be a web-based mapping tool that the public, developers, businesses, property owners can use to identify sites for redevelopment. And the funds will be used for outreach to stakeholders, because that's a really important component to help us select the sites and identify reuses. As we continue, we'll have funds to do environmental site assessments, and which will include a very extensive evaluation of sites to identify those that are the best candidates for food production. Through our partnership with EPA and the ATSDR, which is the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, Phoenix is a partner in their Health Fields program. We have access to a number of professionals who already have experience on redeveloping former brownfield sites for food production. Now, while anecdotal evidence exists on the benefits of community gardens, such as enhanced community cohesion, we recognize the importance of quantifying the actual health impacts of creating access to healthy food and healthcare. So we have grant funds that we can use for health monitoring to help us quantify those impacts. So we're excited about that opportunity. And because the grant is an assessment-only grant, we're going to have to seek cleanup dollars from other sources, such as the State Department of Environmental Quality, or EPA. And we've also taken an added precautionary step with food production sites, and we have post-cleanup soil sampling that will be done specifically for folks that will be growing on those sites. Now, within this 3-year grant period, we expect to complete the inventory, to complete the mapping tool, identify those health field opportunities, do environmental site assessments, initiate that health monitoring, obtain cleanup funding, which all will result in, we hope, at least 3 to 5 sites in this 3-year period that are cleaned up or redeveloped or on their way to redevelopment. So we're excited for this opportunity to create our own success stories that can be replicated throughout the city, and look forward to working with our partners, residents, and stakeholders to enhance economic development, eliminate environmental hazards, and transform community health by redeveloping brownfields to health fields. So thank you for this opportunity, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Roseanne, just one thing.
Yes.
If council members or their offices are curious about a specific site in their district, do they contact you? Who do they contact?
They can contact me directly, and we do that often.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe and Roseanne. Great presentation. We do have one card here. If my colleagues don't mind, maybe we'll do that first, and then we'll go to any questions or comments. C.J. Hager from St. Luke's Health Initiatives. Please join us. Welcome.
Is it on? Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. I just want to take a moment, and my name again is CJ Eisenbarth Hager, and I'm with St. Luke's Health Initiatives. St. Luke's Health Initiatives is a Phoenix-based health foundation, and our mission is to support and inform the health of all Arizonans. We've been lucky enough to work with Roseanne and Joe for quite a while on a number of issues, and this is just the latest iteration of it. And I really applaud this effort because it takes a step toward improving how the city of Phoenix approaches health. Of course, the City of Phoenix doesn't have a health department, but there are many ways, as you all were talking about, that you can do to support the health of residents in Phoenix. Phoenix is, of course, a great example of that. The Complete Streets Ordinance is another great example of this, and Brownfields to Health Fields is another great example. This also nicely aligns with a lot of the existing work that's going on, including what we're doing at St. Luke's Health Initiatives, but also some broader food-related issues, including the Maricopa County Food System Coalition. We believe this will help provide another tool in the toolbox to redevelop distressed lands, but also really focus on community health. So once again, thanks for your support of this, and thanks to Joe and Roseanne in taking a leadership on this.
Thank you very much for your comments, and thanks for St. Luke's involvement on this project and many others that are of importance to the health of our community. Questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilor Nowakowski.
You know, it's kind of scary when you look at the statistics that adults who are overweight and obese, Maricopa County 60%, and nationwide is at 34%. When you were doing your locations or target areas, did you look at the obesity in each of those areas as a factor of targeting those areas, or what was?
No, Wachowski, actually, we did, when we originally applied for the grant application, we looked at the health data. At that particular point, it was available about a year and a half ago. The county hadn't yet done data down to the census tract or zip code level, so we had to rely upon the overall county rates. So right now, that data, the county is filtering down to a zip code and census tract level. So we'll be able to overlay, and we'll see, in general, we know that those target areas have brownfields, have food deserts, and also are medically underserved. But we'll have a closer picture as we overlay those items and can share that back with you.
That'd be great. And I'd love to sit down and talk to you, because we have a $50 million project going down Broadway Road, and we have all kinds of landfills that are on both sides, brownfields, with the recycling industry out there, and that would be a real target area for individuals, and especially with all the resources that we're spending in that area.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments? Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I just want to commend the effort and thank you for all of the partnerships out of our office. We work with several organizations, some of the similar ones, IRC, Valley of the Sun United Way, of course, the Maryville Revitalization Corporation, West Phoenix Revitalization Corporation. It goes on and on and on. In fact, currently we're all working together on these types of efforts for Maryville. So we will definitely sit down with you to tie in some of those. And so interesting that you bring up the big development that on Broadway. I was actually thinking that as well. So we have several of these brownfields in the city. To have this type of approach to think citywide, I think is good for all of us. It's good for the people of Phoenix. And so I commend your efforts. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Thank you for this presentation. Look forward to the great projects that are going to come out of this. Takes us on to item 9, Open Data Initiative Update. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Gates, members of the subcommittee. My name is Rob Sweeney. I'm the Assistant Chief Information Officer for the City of Phoenix. We have with us here today to present to you about open data, the update, as well as a campaign to have the community engage with our data. We have Julie Waters, our Communications Director, Communications Office, as well as Ty Farrell, who is our Web Content Manager for the Communications Office. Mr. Chairman and members of the subcommittee, we were in front of you about a year and a half ago seeking your approval of an open data policy, which this body and the City Council unanimously adopted. And that policy went into effect in July 2014, and city staff has been engaged in creating a web portal, as well as adding data sets to the community and making it available. And we're very proud of the work we've done up to this point. That information is available on the City of Phoenix's website, phoenix.gov/open data, for folks to engage with the community. As an update and a reminder to the community, the concept of open data is to ensure that the data is available to the community without constraint. So the data that we have in our possession should be available to them to download and to do as they wish. However, it's also a commitment to city staff to look at that and say the data is open by default unless there is a compelling legal, confidential, or other restricted nature of that data that would put harm to the city should that data be released inappropriately. So today we have about 130 different data sets on the website for downloading by the community. And we wanted to look at how we could engage the community to look at the open data a little bit more. And we worked with the communications office as well as the mayor's office to come up with a very creative campaign for engaging the community. So I'd like to turn it over to Julie Waters to go through that campaign 28 maps later, and we'll walk through where we stand with the website. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Good morning, Chairman Gates and members of the subcommittee. So the role of the communications office with this project is basically to help tell this great story. We took on the task of creating a marketing education campaign to make the public aware of the city's mapping open data tool. Our strategy was to make this primarily a social media campaign because the nature of these maps lend themselves to connecting with people digitally, including through their mobile devices. We created what some people have said is a catchy campaign name called 28 Maps Later, You'll See Phoenix Differently. This is a playoff on a series of pop culture science fiction movies called 28 Days Later. Every day for the month of February, we have posted an image on the city's Facebook and Twitter accounts linking directly to a map that represents city services, city facilities, city recreational opportunities. What you see on the slide right now in front of you is a dog park. We did that on day one of this campaign because we know that pets are popular and will get people's attention, and we know that our dog parks are popular. So we started with our dog parks as our very first one. We'd like to give you a few more examples of what we've done. So please, again, let us introduce Ty Farrell. He is the City of Phoenix's digital content manager. He also helped create and produce this marketing education campaign. Ty?
Thanks, Julie. Good morning, Chairman Gates, subcommittee members. I wanted to start off by showing you an example of one of the maps that the mapping portal tool can display. All our maps are interactive and mobile device friendly, so they work on iPhones, iPads, and other devices. These maps can help people visualize data. What you see here is part of the map we'll be promoting on day 24. It shows the location of each parking meter downtown. Are you new to downtown and want a plan where you can park for a night out in the town? This data could help you by showing you detailed information about the meters. This entire promotion serves to introduce the public to the idea of open data. So how exactly are we promoting these maps on social media? On the lower right-hand corner, you can see a user on Twitter tweeted some information about our campaign. The user wrote, "Have you played with the 28 Maps Later open data mapping tool yet? Slick," with a shortened link to the open data mapping portal. We hope the public will continue to share information about the available open data. This slide gives you a quick overview of the entire month's posts by category. All the posts have already been pre-scheduled to automatically post each day. The 28 Maps presents a lot of information from various city departments. For example, library locations, which promote education, fire stations, which promote public safety, and locations of golf courses, which promote tourism and recreation. After 15 days, we've had a Facebook reach of about 20,000 and about 21,000 Twitter impressions. This number represents the potential audience of people who were served up our campaign posts, either by directly following us or through other people's shares. So far, what has been the most popular? Our Day 5 Phoenix Points of Pride map generated a fair amount of engagement, including likes and shares and comments. This post had about 2,700 people reached organically, which means we didn't pay anything to reach these people. The right image on the slide shows you what was posted for the day, and the left shows you the actual text that was posted to Facebook. So I hope this gives you a little introduction to how this campaign works. It's both a marketing campaign and an educational campaign to raise awareness about open data. So I'll turn it back over to Julie Waters to discuss some of the tools we've been using so far.
So those statistics really bring home the value of this type of marketing education campaign. And as we said, our strategy was to make it primarily a social media campaign, but we did some traditional marketing elements as well. Of course, we have information on the city website about this campaign. We've used traditional news release, pitched to some different reporters here in town and stuff. We also created a promotional video. We're just going to play it in the background right now. It's about 30 seconds long, But this video was used also to just engage people and let them see another way that we are communicating to get this information out. In just a few short weeks that we started this campaign, this video has been viewed several hundred times already on the city's YouTube account and on the city's Facebook page. Our goal from the beginning was to introduce the concept of open data to the public, give examples of how open data can help visualize city services. We believe the results that we've shared with you are that the city's mapping open data tool has now been exposed to tens of thousands of people, more than it ever was before. So we're about halfway through the marketing education campaign, and we're hopeful that these results are going to continue growing and engaging the community through transparency with our open data mapping efforts. And with that, I'll let Mr. Sweeney wrap it up.
Great, thank you, Julie. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, transparency is a core tenet of the city staff and of the city in general. We wanted to make sure we could educate the public regarding our commitment to transparency, and we thought this was a very creative way in which to demonstrate our commitment to that. We welcome the community to view our open data capabilities on phoenix.gov/opendata, where they can get at our very mature mapping-based data as well as other information that the city staff has made available to the community there. So, Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, we entertain any questions you have about the campaign or about our commitment to the journey and our commitment to transparency.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much. Questions or comments from my colleagues? Councilman Waring.
Did any of you guys get the 28 days reference? I was just curious, because we're all kind of the same.
Yeah, I'm guessing you didn't.
I did not, no.
Yeah, it's because the
But
movie's
Daniel's
not
the
from the
youngest.
80s.
I don't know, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Star Wars or something like that the next time.
Duly noted.
Dating myself.
They're
Duly
not.
noted.
They're not aiming
I was
for
just
us,
curious.
Jim.
They're
I
not
think
aiming
is
for us.
what's going on
So
here.
discouraging.
Or Disney Channel.
Yeah.
This is no. Any other comments?
Yeah, I
Yes,
just
Vice
have a-
Mayor.
You know, Julie's an all-star, you all are, and this was just, I think it's an example of what we get. We need to look like a world-class city, and we have all of these stories to tell, and I know it's the entire team. I think if you were to talk to Julie, she would give the credit to everyone else. But this is a big deal for all of us. If we don't tell our story, then who will? Open data is more, as I see it, than just transparency. Obviously, that's exactly what it is. It is transparency. But we are truly creating the choice place for entrepreneurs and innovators right here in Phoenix. And we are giving an opportunity with things like hackathons, working with organizations. The Arizona Startup Foundation just this past weekend, I worked with them on something called Code Day. We are constantly putting this data out there in a secure way, allowing people to figure out if there is a way to make Phoenix a better place to live, work, play. Is there a better way to time bus routes, light rail? The packet talks about Reimagine Phoenix and Public Works, and the list goes on and on and on. And that's what it's about as well. It's about transparency, but it's also about turning data over to some of the brightest minds we have in the world who happen to reside right here in Phoenix. And who, by the way, yes, they are much younger than all of us, many of them. And giving them an opportunity to put their fingerprint on this city, make and continue as we grow our efforts in being this world-class city. And I think we are there, but to sustain that, that's what this program is all about. And a lot of people don't understand it, and that's why we need such a great marketing campaign around it that reaches everyone. And so I'm really excited about all of it. So congratulations.
Thank you for those comments. I would echo what my colleagues have said. This is a great campaign. I love the cost of it too. That's the beauty of social media, is it's essentially free. I had a question, kind of a broader question about the open data process and how that's proceeding. I think my understanding was some of the transit information was some of the first data that was made available. How are we progressing more generally in making additional information available in ways that can be used by these entrepreneurs that the Vice Mayor is talking about?
Certainly. Chairman Gates, the Information Technology Services Organization is working with each of the departments to identify those data sets to make available. So as an example, recently working with the Water Department about their production and consumption data that could be done at an aggregate level, since water is a very interesting topic in the Southwest now. And much of that data has been used in other public settings. So we're working with the departments to identify where they have public records requests standing or otherwise that this could be a natural extension of that just to make the data natively available. So we started out, I think, in the fall of 2014 with about 25 data sets after they've been vetted. And as I indicated, we're up to 130 now. But we want to make sure we go through a process to vet that data to ensure there's no loss of the public trust as that happens. But we're continuing to meet with the departments to engage them to make this data available. Part of it is also in re-educating them as to, it doesn't mean that the data is really important or of value to us. It may have value to somebody else. So make that available. They can make what they want of it. We aren't here to predispose what the outcome of that data is, but we want to make sure that we can provide as much data as well as transparency to the community.
Great. Well, thanks for your work, and I want to recognize the leadership of Mayor Stanton on this issue. He's made this a real priority for him, and I appreciate that, and I'd say all of us on the council are behind him 100% in this effort. So thanks so much.
Welcome, thanks.
All right. And that brings us to item 10, Economic Development Strategy Update. We have Chris Mackey and Paul Blue.
They're hot.
Mr. Chair, members of the subcommittee, Paul Blue, Deputy City Manager, and I'm here with Chris Mackey, who is the Community and Economic Development Director. And about 2 years ago, staff came before the full council to talk about economic development strategy. And part of the reason was because of substantive freeway development, the advantage that Phoenix enjoyed in the 70s, 80s, and 90s was eroded when labor became much more transportable around the metropolitan area. And as a result, a very large amount of real estate got built out of the central city and away from locations that were proximate to Phoenix residents. And so we began an effort in early 2014 with the direction and consent of the council to try and adjust our strategies to acknowledge changes in the marketplace, determine how we could become more competitive, and to actually start applying those strategies. So not only working harder, but in some cases working smarter. So we're here today to share with you the details for what we pursue, how we pursue it, and some of the outcomes and where we're going in the upcoming calendar year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Good morning, Chairman and council members. As Mr. Blue spoke about, in early 2014, you all reviewed some ideas for strategies to move forward, provided input, and that is what our strategic plan is based on. And just as a reminder, those are, of course, attract high-wage jobs, focus on key sectors, focus on entrepreneurship, strong revitalization of our urban area, expand the city's revenue base, and develop and retain qualified talent. How are we going to attract those knowledge workers back into the economy? And that focus, those key focuses, have led to our 2015 results, which are 9,400 new jobs created and about $1 billion in capital investment into the Phoenix market. You'll see here 9,400 jobs that were created. Those are a 174% increase over 2014, where we saw 3,400 jobs created. And just for a point of reference and clarification, at the bottom you'll see it says jobs retained. Those are actually new jobs created by our existing companies through some way that the city helped them overcome a barrier or a challenge. And then in the red, you see those are actual new jobs with our 28 new companies coming to market. We had a very strong focus on business attraction and strong capital investment. Many of you have spent a lot of hours with us at walkthroughs and meeting with companies and ribbon cuttings. Those focuses have led to Facility Source in Midtown, Uber in downtown, Stitch Fix in the West Valley, Pack Worldwide along I-10, American Express Travel up in the Kierland market, and Galvanize in the Warehouse District. That created more than $1 billion amongst those 28 companies. Here, and I know it's too much to read, but just a real diversification of the market attraction that Phoenix is seeing these days. It really is attributable to that new focus and the focus on infrastructure and quality, creating that quality workforce that these companies are attracted to. We have created a very strong business retention program. All of you have given countless hours to us in visiting with our existing companies and showing them how important they are to us. About 170% increase in our visits and outreach. We created the Phoenix Innovation Corridor, focusing on the Central City. The Central City really is the heart of any community, and the Innovation Corridor has shown that the Central City is where these creative companies want to be. That is because of the existence of our qualified workforce and mass transit and unique housing opportunities. We've seen downtown redevelopment in both residential and others really come to the forefront. You know, we talk about our downtown market, and we really had you've got either got an 8-hour market, you've got a 16-hour market, you've got a true 24-hour market. I think Phoenix has really moved into the strong 16-hour market, and with this new residential, we are moving into the true 24/7 marketplace. Our development on the Phoenix Biomedical Campus, you know, I watched from those freeway areas that Mr. Blue was referencing, and everyone was incredibly envious of the forward-thinking creativity on this Phoenix Biomedical Campus, and it is paying off in dividends. Midtown was really a forgotten market, and not forgotten because people weren't paying attention to it, but it was considered an obsolete market. It was a market people really weren't interested in locating in. The end of 2014, about September, at a 38% vacancy in that market. Over the past over a 15-month period, and now moving into this period, we have succeeded in putting about 2 million square feet of companies or adaptive reuse into that market, and now we see about a 21% vacancy rate in the market. I think even on a global level for all of Phoenix, we have seen the vacancy rate in our office market to drop to below 20%, which we had not seen since 2007. Warehouse District is a white-hot market. We are seeing a significant number of companies want to move into that market, into those funky old warehouses and those adaptive reuses. And the Warehouse District is probably one of our, after Midtown, it is our strongest employment market currently. On the entrepreneurship front, we're seeing the creation not only of our companies, but of places where they can grow. This council a number of months ago voted on the opportunity for Gateway Community College to create a makerspace here on 6th Avenue in Van Buren. We've seen the department open. We've seen our union office space get ready to move into downtown, and Cahoots announce a new expansion into the Midtown market. Those entrepreneur ventures have found Phoenix. We've seen Gravity, a cybersecurity company, move in. We've seen Gift Card Zen come into downtown Phoenix. VA Angels go into the CEI market. Chino's up in the galvanized area. The Nerdery move into downtown, and others move into this market. One of the most important things that we have focused on this past year is an absolute team effort. Economic development is a team sport. Without our great plan reviewers and our water team and our streets department and our public works group, we would not be seeing the locates and the development that we're seeing today. They are absolutely our secret weapon. We have worked as a team. City manager provided us guidance, and we have worked as a team to create part of the capital improvement program into an economic development focus. In other words, his direction was, if we were to invest money in certain areas in 24 months, where could we see the greatest return of our money and jobs? Our team decided this year to focus on the Warehouse District, the Midtown market, and Gateway. And then the other ones that you've seen, of course, through this council in some strong leadership is the Economic Development CIP for Grand Canyon University and Charles Schwab, which has already brought $430 million of new capital investment into this market. We've seen our Mexico market continue on a strong front, with exports to Mexico increasing more than 19% year over year. Our Canadian market, even with the dollar comparison against that Canadian market, has come on strong, and we've seen a number of new manufacturing companies want to set up operations here in Phoenix. We've assisted more than 20,000 job seekers in working through job training, through resume writing, and through employee development, and subsequently some of them have found positions. We saw our 100,000 opportunity youth converge on top of Phoenix, where we had our disconnected youth attend, 1,700 of them attend a job fair, and a great number of them walking away that day with jobs. This council created a strategic economic development fund, which has been all the difference in attracting new companies, one of which you will consider on your meeting this afternoon, which is a new corporate headquarter relocation into North Phoenix, bringing 134 very high-wage jobs. That strategic economic development fund, as we talked about in the beginning, is the key. It's the key to new infrastructure and to job training. We created a new marketing brand campaign on Phoenix is Hot. At the beginning, we talked about Phoenix is very hot, and created a great new website that is now seeing more activity and more transactional activity as people download information relating to Phoenix job locations and employment corridors than we have in the past. As we look to move forward in 2016, you'll see us continue to focus on those high knowledge-based, high-wage categories: advanced business services and biosciences, manufacturing, entrepreneurship, IT software. This is already leading us in great direction for this year. So where we saw 9,400 jobs created in 2015, already to date this year, we have created 7,300 new jobs. And this is only now mid-February. So those are great opportunities, and are looking forward. Paul challenged us to reach the percentage increase that we saw over 2014 to 2015, and the team that we have here in Phoenix with all of our disciplines are just those to be able to do it. As we look at our strategy going forward, really continuing that strong focus on all 13 employment corridors. One is not more hot than the other. Each one has its own different set of guidelines and activities that we get to follow, but really re-tenanting the space. Our goal is by the end of the year to see our vacancy rates in all of our markets kind of sub 15%, and have taken that on as a challenge to repurpose those spaces. As we said in the beginning, Phoenix is hot, and it is continuing to move forward in a very strong fashion. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have on economic development.
All right, questions and comments from my colleagues? Vice Mayor.
Yeah, now just,
Oh, yeah.
Again, great job, Paul Blue and Chris Mackey and Ed Zerker and the entire team. Another great way to market what we're doing as well. You mentioned attract and retain, I think you said, but it's about attract, retain, and at every level. And the City of Phoenix is working with the Phoenix Union High School District just a week or so ago. We were all at the ribbon cutting as the new coding academy. The ribbon was cut for that. Working with Grand Canyon University on a lot of what they're doing, ASU. It's actually pretty timely that we can actually talk about this now, but next week is Phoenix Startup Week, and the City of Phoenix has been working closely with Jonathan Cottrell, Arizona Startup Foundation, and the list goes on and on. There's going to be more than 100 free programs for entrepreneurs right here in the second annual Phoenix Startup Week. So it's about tying in education and economic development, and of course our entrepreneurs, and it's really starting to show on us when you look at what's happening in Midtown and the Warehouse District, and on every campus of the universities that we have here as well. Things are really starting to come together. It's really exciting to see.
Thank you. Any other comments? Just wanted to echo what the Vice Mayor said, and then also just to underline a couple of things. One, from the job creation from last year, it looks like, of course, we love getting new companies coming in. Congratulations, Councilman Waring, on Carlisle coming into District 2. But it was exciting to see that nearly half of those jobs were from existing companies. So while we talk about attracting new companies, really appreciate your focus on those existing companies, helping them to grow. And also maybe you can talk a little bit about the cooperation that's going on with GPEC and how the city is really working together. That's, a partnership that's been there for a long time, but it seems like, to your credit, Chris, it's kind of at a zenith right now. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
I will. Thank you for that, Chairman. So first of all, when we talk about our existing companies, they are the single most important thing to us. 80% of your new jobs come from your existing companies, and I think you see that in those numbers. They are critical that they continue to grow and be healthy, and we love going out and visiting with them. And our relationship with GPAC, the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, is probably our single most important marketing component that we have here in the metropolitan Phoenix area. They are a strong job creation machine. They're ranked #1 in the country as regional economic development models, and they bring a significant number of job opportunities into Phoenix, and then it's up to the cities to compete for them. But as you mentioned, we've just hit our stride with GPAC, and are seeing more than our fair share of the companies that come to Arizona looking for potential opportunities really select Phoenix, finding exactly what they're looking for in Phoenix. And I credit that to Chris Camacho's leadership and to their business development team really understanding our product. But I also really credit that to our planning department. So when a company is trying to make a quick decision or they're trying to decide a building that they're going to go into, our planning department removes every barrier that they have. They are the ones who are at the table with me pitching on the day before Thanksgiving and ensuring that companies find no reason to say no to Phoenix. So, it really is, between all of us, it's a great partnership opportunity.
Well, thanks for that comment about the planning department. I think it really is important for people to know that Phoenix is open for business. There's been a effort over many years by staff, by council to make to become easier to do business with and easier for development. And it's great to see that when combined with your efforts, we're seeing a great payoff and great dividends. Vice Mayor?
I guess I'll say one more thing. I'm passionate about this particular topic, but attract, retain, and develop talent. And one of the wins that you had up there is Galvanize. And they've received a lot of attention. We're going to get a lot more, deservedly so. It was a partnership with GPEC and several others to pull that one in. But think about this for a moment. We just attracted Galvanize in an education-based co-working space, focuses on computer science, engineering. They help prepare people and develop talent so that we can attract 21st century jobs. And it allows those, we'll call them students, these graduates, to go out and compete and to work in these settings as well. Galvanize has a few different campuses in San Francisco and in the Denver area, and they have a record of graduating 1,000 students a year, 97% placement, with a starting salary of about $85,000 a year. Think about that talent pool that we just attracted. It wasn't just attracting that logo. It wasn't just attracting another company. You just attracted a pipeline, and other companies see Galvanize as that. So now others will come. 2015 was a big year. 2016 potentially could be a bigger year, and 2017 and on and on. So what made me think about that was GPEC. It's our city led by our economic development team, of course, with our partners in GPEC and others who are also a part of that whole ecosystem. Several were there. WebPT played a strong role in that as well. So Phoenix is certainly hot. So it's not just because it's like 90 degrees already, and but we have a lot to offer here. It's really exciting.
Chairman, Vice Mayor, you are absolutely correct. When we look at what companies are attracted to, it's not the days when company would move into an industrial building and then people would move to live near that building. Those companies follow the pipeline, they follow the talent. And the more we can do to attract that talent by creating a livable downtown, by creating opportunities where this knowledge workforce wants to live, by bringing the galvanizers in, just makes us more and more highly competitive for these projects. So when you look at the jobs that we attracted last year, the 9,400 jobs we attracted last year, one of the most important thing about those jobs is not the sheer numbers, but there was a 25% salary increase year over year. So we're not only attracting those 25%, 25% year over 14. And so it shows that we're not just attracting those, kind of basic jobs, which are still important. All of our citizens need a good job, but we're attracting more high-wage jobs. We're really starting to compete significantly with our main competition, which would be Austin and San Jose and Denver. We are coming on as highly competitive for those high-wage jobs.
All right, well, unless there's anything else, thank you so much for the presentation. Really appreciate the opportunity to learn more about it and kind of bringing it together in one place, all your great efforts and successes. So with that, takes us to the next item, which is call to the public, and we do not have any cards for call to the public. And then on to future agenda items. Future agenda items have been provided to the members of the subcommittee for their review. Any additional items that my colleagues would like to see on there? All right, well, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.